Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Question. We all have it. Sometimes it holds us back. Sometimes it protects us. What is it? Answer: fear. We're going to deal with fear today and how to get around it, how to deal with it. She helps people with that and more all the time as an amazing psychologist. Dr. Ann Creekmore is back with us. Hi, Ann. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Steve?
I'm good. It's funny we talk about fear.
Yeah.
We just had an earthquake here in the New York area. Not even kidding, not making that up. And for the first time, and I will rewind here and say, my current mantra is nothing surprises me. I've been in my journey, even recently, nothing really surprises me. This one, I'm sitting here and it starts shaking. I'm thinking, maybe it's a truck going by. Every once in a while, you feel a little bit in this building. And then it continued. And for probably out of the 12 seconds, 2 of the seconds, I was like, I think I need to leave. I didn't. It stopped.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where like, this is more than just something, truck passing by. I did think, God forbid, could have been a plane crash or something like that, but it wouldn't have lasted that long. But it's funny how fear can kick in for many different reasons.
Absolutely.
Tell us.
Absolutely. Well, what would you like me to tell you about exactly? Do you have something in particular about fear that you want me to talk about?
Where does it come from? Is it evolutionary placed in us to literally protect us?
Sure, absolutely. Because it alerts us that we need to do something for our survival.
How do we know when it's real? We may be feeling this, but how do we know it's a real bona fide fear?
Exactly. Well, it depends because people can have, anxiety disorders, and that could be they're having anxiety that isn't really something to be afraid of. I mean, somebody with kind of an OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, might be, I've known, might come back home and try to look under his car and make sure he didn't accidentally, drag somebody home with him that he hit and he didn't realize it. That's kind of like a, kind of an OCD kind of thought. And he'd have to get under and check. And of course, then he'd find out, no, he hadn't. But it's kind of like trying to find out, if you have regular anxiety, what, the source of that anxiety could be. It could be something like people who have a bipolar type depression, the moody depression, what goes up comes down, got depression, but they maybe chase something shiny, they get themselves excited about something, and then they can bring themselves out of depression. But if there's nothing really going on and they kind of trigger their euphoric cocktail, their serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline, they may just feel anxious at that moment, and just from their up and down chemicals going on. So, so in other words, I'm saying that there's different things that could cause someone, or people who have had trauma growing up. Their limbic system may be overactivated. The limbic system is your emotionality system, where the amygdala is there and the kind of fight or flight reaction. And if you've had some things that kind of caused you to be, frightened as a child, if something resembles that in your environment, you may, go to that and you may feel threatened. Your reptilian brain's triggered and you're getting to fight or flight in protective mode unnecessarily. And that can just be a neurological kind of a reaction in a sense. So obviously something like the earthquake, it's like, that's just reacting to something that's happening that, then you're having to think it's giving you some energy to maybe take care of yourself. Like, hey, do I need to leave? But people with on the autistic spectrum, Asperger's, even at the high level, might all of a sudden get overstimulated and feel like they have to run out of this situation. So it's really a matter of kind of maybe if you have anxiety, getting therapy, getting some, assessment, find out if there is something chemical, something neurological, something emotional, some, PTSD. Is that triggering it? And try to get the help to heal that so you don't feel that anxiety on a chronic basis.
I'm going to give you a statement and I want your feedback on it.
Sure.
The majority of the things that we fear and or worry about, I've heard in studies that it's over 90% never materialize. So 90% of the things that we fear and worry about never materialize. We're wasting our time. We're wasting our energy. We need to overcome that in some way, unless we have some other challenges there. But your thoughts on that?
Yes, I agree. Most of the time, whatever we worry about, that's not the thing that's going to happen. You're going to be sitting there and all of a sudden there's an earthquake, that you didn't anticipate. That happened, but you're not sitting around worried about it. So yeah, the majority of the time, there really isn't anything that is going to happen from it. It's more just, just triggers or other things that are causing you to feel anxious. So it's important to try to bring your anxiety level down and realize that there probably is, nothing bad is going to happen. The shoe, a lot of people, the shoe is going to drop, but they've had that happen to them in their lives where something happened and then they just sit and wait for the next shoe to drop, so to speak, and got to get the help to get to a better relaxed state in general.
How do you change your mindset? For example, for me, never loved going to doctors. Blood test, just a routine lab test. I'd be like, I think about it for days. Like, oh, I got blood tests. I'm being honest. Fear of needles. All people have them.
Mm-hmm.
I flipped it around in that I look at it as now an opportunity. I'm going to the doctor to take care of myself. I'm going to see what my labs are. I'm going to learn some things because most of the things you worry about don't take place. Why do we fear blood tests? Well, I might pass out. How am I going to feel? All of that. I've flipped it around. So I look at it from that other way. And I think it works. It supports me. Do I love going to the doctor? You know what? It's not now. Now it's not going to the doctor, which it used to be. Now it's finding the time. So I have to move things in the schedule, and that's more of the hassle. I could be going to get my car washed. It'd be the same thing. I got to find time to get the car washed.
Right. Exactly.
But how do we do that in other or all situations where we're going to, or we should flip the mindset?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you can kind of stay with your feelings and ask yourself, and I'm just look at this, if you don't mind, for you a little bit around the medical.
Sure.
Like when you start to worry about going to the doctor or needles or whatever, getting blood work, which is going to be fine intellectually, and you're feeling that fear, you can kind of ask yourself, what does fear feel like to me? Is it, are you anxious? You overwhelmed? Is it mostly that you just can't find the time to get in? That's the majority of it, or is it, are you worried at a level, it reminds you of when, you found out something bad happened, you got a test and then you got some bad news. And so you kind of don't want that, kind of like to see, like, what is this anxiety, the source? What's it triggering? Or what does it bring up? What are your associations?
I think I identified it in the blood test. Can I share?
Sure, absolutely.
And I don't know if it's right, but the more I deeper think about it, so I got bullied as a kid, get made fun of, things like that.
Oh.
It wasn't the fear of the needle so much. It was the fear of how I'm going to react. And in my mind, it's, what if I pass out? What if I get queasy? What if that happens? And then people will see me. And I think that's what I thought about. And of course, this is what, with all of that, about 15 years ago, what happens? I go for a routine lab test. And the phlebotomist leaves the band on my arm and she's going to talk to a coworker, and test was over. I'm like, maybe I should say something. She finally comes back to me after her conversation on the side, releases the pressure. And I was like, I think I'm going down now. And I didn't. And I just sat, gave me orange juice and was fine. But it even backed up the fear I had originally of what's going to happen here because of that. one-off situation, but I think that's what it wasn't really a fear of the needle going in. It was the fear of how I'm going to react. And people have that on planes, fear of flying. Some fear, what if the plane goes down? Others, well, I'm in this metal tube for a number of hours. What am I going to do about that? What if I get anxiety? How am I going to react to it? How am I going to handle it? I can't go anywhere. Control. Control's
Right.
another thing, right?
Exactly. It's kind of like the fear of, like what people have the fear of public speaking, a fear of people's reactions. It's like, I guess, like fear of falling and then the fear of a negative public reaction, the two main fears, the top fears.
Sure.
So it's kind
Public
of
speaking is like one of the top three, by the way. You're right.
uh-huh. So it's kind of like, there are different therapies for it. I mean, there's cognitive behavioral therapy where you can kind of thought stop the fear, the negative fear, and just say the opposite to yourself. I get blood tests all the time, and I'm totally fine. And they have all, they're used to people being a little apprehensive, and nobody will in a medical setting is going to make fun of a person because that they feel a little apprehensive. They're just kind of trying to help you with it. Just kind of reassure yourself it's going to be okay. Kind of that cognitive behavioral to change the negative thought to the positive thought.
Sure.
And of course, there's different things. I mean, if it's a really big phobia, for example, which doesn't sound like it is in your case, you go. But if it is and you feel you can't go, because people should go get their blood work done and make sure they're healthy and so on, then you can get hypnosis for phobias or therapy. And that can, eliminate that.
I heard a statement recently, literally in the last 2 days, about fear. And fear is standing in front of the person you always wanted to be.
Tell me more about that.
I process that, and it comes down to fear is holding us back. If you think of all the things, fear of taking chances in business, fear in your personal life, you're with somebody in a relationship, you could have the best person in the universe, but you're afraid to make that change. Fear is standing in the way of the person you always wanted to be.
Got it. I didn't get that immediately. Right, exactly. Because sometimes we allow our fears to prevent us from doing things and taking those risks that would really be something wonderful we could have. Like just even speaking up and sharing something with somebody that you like, for example, and you don't say anything to them ever, and so nothing happens with the relationship. Or anything, or fear of like applying for the job that you would really like, and you don't do it. So of course you don't get it. So that it's really important to keep yourself, at that Zen state, so to speak, at the relaxed state, so that you don't let fear come in and get in the way of you doing what you need to do, what you want to do.
Have you ever heard this acronym? Or here we go. FEAR.
Mm-hmm.
False evidence appearing real.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's right in my book. So I've definitely heard that.
I guess I should read that page. I've read other pages, but not that one.
It's all to remember. Remember, it covers all the different main types of therapy that are effective, each chapter. So there's a lot in it. So I'm not surprised you don't remember every little thing. But yes, absolutely. That's what we really have to remember. And if we can kind of go to if we're spiritual, we can go to our higher power, our inner peace or sacred space, or just our connectedness to good or source or God as we believe it, the higher power, then that can just bring us to that place where we, realize that this is just false evidence, that we are good, we are safe, all is well.
Some other thoughts on how we can conquer fear.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about hypnotherapy as being one of them. Certainly counseling and talking about it and just kind of figuring out why we have certain fears, but some other thoughts. What do you think?
Yes. Well, then I think we talked about this breath work just to kind of bring yourself down to low blood pressure and your heart rate going down to just the triangular breathing. I think we talked about it last time to do some relaxation exercises, breath work a couple of times a day, maybe 5 minutes a day when you wake up or right before bed, when you're relaxed, and just kind of breathe up the left triangle, maybe say peace, and then down. Exhale down the right side of the triangle, say peace. And at the bottom, just pause, hold, rest, say relax. And just keep breathing up, and you don't have to say anything, just follow your breath, or you can say a mantra and just kind of practice that every day so that you get to that, after about a minute, your blood pressure, everything will start to go down and you just feel more relaxed. You keep doing it and then you stay at that and you get your body in a way that will just always stay at that more relaxed state.
Now, we've talked about breathing techniques before, and you just reminded me of that. When you're in that fear situation, just stopping and taking those breaths, even 3 deep ones in, 3 out, just to press the reset button can make a big difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What about fear connected to anxiety? Somebody has a fear. How do you know if it's true anxiety? Because some of us suffer from some anxiety. How do you connect it to fear? Or is fear many times it is anxiety?
Right. Well, okay, so you can always go to a therapist, a psychologist, for example, that does the testing or does the assessments to find out, well, why am I having this anxiety? Is it a chemical imbalance thing, or is it a neurological thing, or is it a trauma that cause, and so you can get the help with it. But on an everyday basis, I mean, you can, just to connect. I was taught by I'm spiritual too, and accepting of all the religions and so on. And like to just go to the basic spiritual connection. I was taught something that helped me. I think I might have said this to you. I used to kind of go through this little area, I was driving home and I'd feel a little anxious as I crossed that area. And if it was late at night and 9 o'clock, late at night, and I was like, kind of tired, but whenever I cross this intersection, I would feel a little bit of anxiety. I don't tend to feel a lot of anxiety all the time. So I would feel it then. Well, it turned, but then I just ignore it. But that's what I do with anxiety. So a lot of times, if you could ignore things and just block it a little bit, if it's nothing you have to take care of, that can be very beneficial. It's nothing. It's just a little something, a little blip, a little anxiety. Okay. But I would cross it. And then I was kind of told then when I kind of feel that, people that if you just kind of ask, is this something I need to know? Is this something important to me? Am I just picking up on some energies? It's, a lot of times if you kind of ask that, then you'll either get a relief, because it's like, no, maybe I'm driving home and there's an accident, down the road and I'm picking a little sensitivity or something to that, or there's something about the energy right here that, is not related to me. And if you can kind of ask, hey, is this about something I need, or I'm just picking up on something I don't need? A lot of times your anxiety will go down right then if it isn't something. And then you just say little, positive thoughts to say, well, whatever it is, it's all good, and let it go.
I like what you said there in asking for the answer.
Yeah,
I believe we all have the answer. It's inside of us.
exactly.
Why don't we have the answer? Because things get in the way. What are those things? Could be fear, could be clutter, could be distractions, all of that. But if you could sit with it for just a moment when you're having a fear, it's like, why am I having this? What is my body trying to tell me? Oh, it's not really a fear of that. It's really anxiety, maybe about something related to it. And you can kind of, I guess, emotionally take inventory, take stock,
Right.
figure it out.
Right. Exactly. You can kind of just, say, when did I feel this way before? Or what comes to mind around this. Or some people are just sensitive and they pick up on energy around them. How you walk in a room and maybe pick up on somebody's energy, and it's not about you, it's just something you kind of get a vibe about, and kind of see what that is, and just say, and if it's not about me, just want to let it go, put out that prayer, if you will, or that thought process. And, if it's nothing that I need to do, then just let it go. And a lot of times that'll just happen.
If somebody's dealing with some fear, anxiety, how do they connect with you, Ann? Love talking today about all of this. Just so strongly impactful. And it's something we all relate to. We all have fear, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
All men have fear.
Right. It's just sometimes they're taught they can't express it, but we all do. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do we find you?
Yes. Well, I think the easiest way is just to go to my website, psychologistinvirginia.com. It's spelled out, Psychologist, and Virginia spelled out. And it has my, all my info and my phone number and, email and so on.
And your book.
Yes.
Got a chapter in there about it as well.
Exactly. That is in my maiden name, AP Filosa. And I have a website related to that as well, the Love Your Life Healing Center.com. You can go to that one as well. But Love Yourself, Love Your Life is the name of the book. And it's under my maiden name, Filosa. You can find it. Plus some other ones. I have CDs for the hypnosis for anxiety, depression, addiction and sleeping, and or for the anxiety you get if someone has dissociative disorders, and kind of switches and helps them to be calm and in control. I have a couple of different hypnosis CDs that I've done. It's me doing it. Kind of like Headspace, somebody told me. If anyone watches Headspace or something like that, it's similar type.
I love, and I have to check those out. I have a piece of audio, like 18 minutes long, from a hypnotherapy session I did like a year or so ago. And I listened to it at night to go to sleep. And it had nothing to do with sleep. It just puts me out. And I know exactly what the hypnotherapist is going to say. In my mind, I'm almost laughing at the way she's going to say it. There's words coming up. Here it comes. Guess what? 6 minutes later, I'm out. But I'm also, my subconscious is listening to the rest of it and what the original intent was. So it's better than watching TV while you go to sleep. And I thought about that. Imagine you go to sleep watching an episode of something and there's some violence in there, some loud stuff going on, and you're here.
Not before bed, not that.
Bad idea. As always, and great talking with you. And don't be afraid, everybody.
Absolutely. It's all okay.
Connect with Ann. She can help you out with all of that. Thanks so much again.
Thank you, Steve.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.